So please take your seat. If Fran, we just keep drinking. There's plenty of those. Yeah, there's a chair. Hi. Get your name. I don't. You don't have one?
How could we not have yours?
There's some more of them in the back. People need to know where one thing.
Re-energy, free car. Rechargeable.
Getting 2 feet away.
Pacifica's getting the least of it as far as I'm.
We can all see the cameras, so assuming that everybody that isn't looking at each other in the room that is online, most importantly, Nellie can see us. And we see you up in the corner, Nellie. So
Hello.
we're ready to do the roll call.
Welcome, everyone. I wish I could be there with you in person for our first in-person meeting since I've been here. Unfortunately, I am ill, so here I am remoting in. I will. I will call your jurisdiction if you'll please state your name. San Mateo County.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. San Mateo County.
And you?
Thank you. Atherton.
Rick DeGolia.
Belmont. Hearing none. Brisbane.
Pauline Mackin.
You. Burlingame.
Donna Colson.
You. Colma.
And McDonald.
You. Daly City.
Radha Smegwa.
East Palo Alto. Foster City. Half Moon Bay. Hillsborough. Los Banos.
Paul Giannis.
Menlo Park.
Betsy Nash.
Millbrae.
Anderson.
Pacifica.
Tiger Jazz 12 Big Stick.
Portola Valley.
Taylor.
Redwood City.
Kaya Aiken.
San Bruno.
Marty Medina.
San Carlos.
Anita Venkatesh.
San Mateo.
Adam Moran.
South San Francisco. Woodside.
Kevin Bryant.
Wonderful, thank you. And we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. And I think we need to swear some people in.
We do. I believe at least Adam Lorraine, Aiken, and it was Craig Taylor from Portola Valley, yes. And Kevin Bryant, yes. And then we have Paul from Los Banos. Is he virtual or not? Okay, so if you folks don't mind standing up and raising your right hand. And if anyone else has not been sworn in and I've missed you, feel free to stand up as well. You just want to stand up, sitting all day. Well, so I'm going to start, I'm going to say I, and at that point say I, state your name, and then repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
The Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies.
Against all enemies.
Foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
I take this really
without any mental reservation
without any financial reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose.
and that I will well and faithfully
And that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duty
upon which I'm about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Welcome, not just welcome to our 5 new board members, but welcome to everyone. We haven't been together for 3 years as in person. So, and there's many people here that haven't seen each other or been in person before. So welcome, everyone. The first item of business is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Okay. If you would introduce yourself.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Chair, members of the board. My name is Benjamin Eichert. I'm the director of climate programs for the nonprofit organization called the Romero Institute. And I'm also a very proud customer of PCE at San Carlos. The Romero Institute has been working to grow and strengthen the community choice energy movement since 2016. First, in partnership with the Project Development Advisory Committee for what became Central Coast Community Energy, first Monterey Bay Community Power. Had the pleasure of working with Sean for some time on that. Later, we were members of the San Diego Community Choice Alliance and worked with a number of organizations to help launch community choice in San Diego. And for the last 2 years, it's been our privilege to work closely with local labor unions, other climate organizations, and environmental justice groups to help elevate workforce and environmental justice standards within the community choice movement. And so I'm here today to simply ask that staff have an opportunity to work with representatives from our alliance. I think there's some really critical issues at play here. This organization has done a fantastic job of creating wonderful standards, but there are still a few gaps that exist. And as you lead the way into our renewable energy future, we want to ensure that we're also leading the way with really strong workforce standards and environmental justice standards, so that we're growing the skilled and trained workforce that we're going to need to electrify everything into the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't see any other public comment in the room. Public comment online. Rick Benia.
Here I am. Thank you. Welcome to new board members. Greetings to my fellow board members who I served with for many years. They are happy to be on this call tonight. I'd like to first second what Mr. Eichert just expressed. I'm here tonight to talk about the proposed change to the policy number 10 that has been kicked around by the executive committee for a couple of months now. This is a time when labor and the environment are strong and they need to get stronger. They need support. We need to build a whole lot of electrification. We're not going to do it without supporting labor. So I'm calling to say, and I want to provide a little context. I was one of the original founders of PCE back in 2014. And we've worked hard to make it what it is. In 2016, through negotiations with labor, policy 10 came about. That language is good for labor. It has been good for PCE. It has worked fine. And now there's a proposal to change and weaken some of that language. I and many others who you'll be hearing from oppose that change because this is no time to weaken labor and environmental standards, especially when we're setting up and standing with our our DEIA policy. Also, I want to say that in 2020, when PCE was looking to affiliate with California Community Power, the super JPA, which has, I think, 9 or 10 affiliates in California, other CCAs. They have no labor policy. They don't have any environmental policies. They do use good practices, they have so far, but it's important to have policies that protect people's jobs and the environment. So I'm urging you all to look very carefully when this is brought to you, probably at the next board meeting. If anybody's interested in talking about this, I'm available. I would look forward to talking with you about this. So thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you, Rick. And the next person Nellie, can you put up the images of everyone that's got their hand raised? Yeah, oh, Tim Frank.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So I am joining, I'm here today representing the building trades councils of all of the building trades councils in the Bay Area and including Monterey and Santa Cruz. That's 8 councils representing 11 counties. We've been proud to have been working in coalition with a group of environmental justice organizations around a coordinated effort to encourage a consistent package of policies of all of the CCAs in the Bay Area, including Peninsula Clean Energy. And we're particularly interested in working closely with you all because your existing policies are remarkably close to the suite of policies that we have embraced in concert. And we'd like to make sure that you maintain those policies and work with us on the development of the DEIA policy to make sure it remains consistent with your historic practice and with the approach that we are working in concert to try and promote. And we're really pretty excited about the coalition effort. We think this is consistent with the theme that the CCAs were formed around in the first place, to encourage community engagement. And you have this coordinated action by environmental, labor, and environmental justice groups that we think is a model. Just last week, we worked together to promote the rules 9.4 and 9.6 at the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. It was the same set, some of the same groups, and we were pleased that the board unanimously approved its new rules. And those rules will actually create some real demand for complementary action by the CCAs. And we think that the kind of strong labor and environmental standards that we are promoting are going to be even more important with that rule in place. And we would love to work with you to help make sure that that's the case. So we're happy to work with your staff and would love to have your support in doing so.
Okay, thank you. The next comment is from Batul.
Good evening, and thank you all for your time tonight. My name is Batul, and I'm the environmental justice organizer at Let's Green California. And then I also serve as the environmental justice representative for our statewide CCA Workforce and Environmental Justice Standards Alliance. I want to first thank the board for their sincere commitment to developing stronger diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion standards. It's evident that PCE is leading the way in actively addressing workforce and DEAI concerns throughout their practices. However, with this conversation, I think it's imperative to underscore that DEAI and environmental justice are intrinsically linked. With advancing both DEAI and workforce policy language comes an inherent responsibility to uphold the principles of environmental justice throughout all aspects of clean energy procurement policy and practice. DEAI aims to ensure that everyone has equal access to opportunities and resources, and this includes access to clean energy without disproportionately impacting low-income communities of color already on the front lines of the climate crisis. Well-defined policies in addition to existing PCE practices could ensure accountability and consistency and would help avoid unintended harm upon vulnerable communities. As we mentioned in the letter that we sent to the board yesterday, our alliance has developed a comprehensive policy resolution which reflects utility industry standard and best practice. And after comparing our resolution to PCE practice and policy, we found great overlap between the two. However, though we commend PCE for their progress in developing stronger standards, there are critical gaps in the proposed language that are critical to address. I'm here tonight to request this board's support for our alliance leadership to work with your staff to understand these identified gaps and improve the language before it's presented to the executive committee. We believe PCE is more than well positioned to set an example for all California CCAs when it comes to setting strong workforce and EJ standards. and moving our state towards a just transition. Therefore, we'd greatly appreciate the opportunity to meaningfully engage in this discussion further with you all. Thank you again for your time.
Okay, thank you. Christine.
Hi, this is Christine Bowles. I'm a council member in Pacifica and an alternate to this board. I just wanted to thank Jan Pepper for speaking at the recent Civic Well conference last week in Monterey on the topic of solar batteries and electrification. It was clear there were cities there that weren't lucky enough to have CCAs yet. And obviously they were very interested in learning more. I wanted to share one of the other panelists as part of that discussion was Heidi Sandborn from SMUD, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. They're, as you know, I'm sure they're a larger organization with a larger customer base, and they do other infrastructure, including water and sewer, along with electricity. But they're really at the forefront of some new technology and experimentation that I wanted to share. One, they're looking at using people with batteries in their homes and their cars as, in quotes, a virtual power plant to increase grid reliability and prevent brown and blackouts. They're actually working on an app that can even alert a driver that they can pull over and you know, feed their energy back into the grid, and then also helping people decide, you know, when to best charge their cars. One of the other things they're working on is a long duration battery storage pilot program with a company called ESS. They mentioned their zinc flow batteries that are non-toxic, can be recycled, no rare minerals. They're manufactured in the US, and they come in a large cargo container. So that's something that they're going to be trying out and might be an interesting model for us to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I'm sure that somebody will follow up with you on that. Pradeep. You're muted, Pradeep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Rick. I just wanted to say hello, and I'll be watching the board meetings as member of the public. And I wanted to offer any board member, anytime you want to talk about any technical matters, I'm always available. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pradeep. Is there any other public comment? Okay, I don't see any other public comments, so I'm going to close public comment. Could I get an action to set the agenda and approve the consent items?
So moved.
Second from Marty. If anyone wants to pull any of the consent items, now is the time to let us know. I don't see that. Okay, can we take a roll call, please? I don't know. Do we need a roll call?
Because we have someone teleconference.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So let's take a roll call.
And real quick, I didn't catch who made the motion.
Donna Colson.
Thank you. All right. San Mateo County?
Yes.
San Mateo County?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Belmont? Brisbane?
Yes.
Burlingame?
Yes.
Colma?
Yes.
Daly City?
Yes.
East Palo Alto?
Yes.
Foster City? Half Moon Bay?
Yes.
Hillsborough?
Yes.
Los Banos?
Yes.
Menlo Park?
Yes.
Millbrae?
Yes.
Pacifica?
Yes.
Portola Valley?
Aye.
Redwood City?
Yes.
San Bruno?
Yes.
San Carlos?
Yes.
San Mateo?
Yes.
South San Francisco? And Woodside.
Yes.
Thank you, and the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the chair report. I really don't have a report because we have 2 items on the agenda that kind of cover the stuff that I would address, which is the appointment to the executive committee and the audit committee, which is item number 5, and the closed session, which is item number 10. But I want to welcome everybody. I think it's a momentous change for us to actually meet in person. We're all kind of in this transition of going from the convenience of remote meetings and the ability to manage our lives so easily with remote meetings to being forced in person. But really, it's a pleasure to see people and to have the opportunity to connect. And I hope that everybody will take advantage of that as our meetings continue, both before and after the meeting, to get to know one another. I don't have anything else to report. Next item on the agenda is the CEO report.
Good evening, everyone. If I do that from here, can everyone hear me, including those who are remote? So Nellie, can you hear me, Nellie?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to all of the new board members here, and congratulations to all of you who are sworn in tonight. It is really, really nice to see everyone in person, and you know, we had it set up so that you could be spaced out from each other, but it appears you all want to be close, so that's great. I do want to ask that if you are planning to participate remotely, that you let Nellie know the address where you're going to be at 10 days ahead of that meeting so that she can add it onto the agenda. We're back to the way we used to do it, where if you're not here, we need to show members of the public where you are so that if they want to join you at that address, they can do so. So tonight I wanted to cover some staffing updates, legislative update, talk about the all electric awards presentation, board orientation, the mentor program subcommittees and upcoming meetings, and anything else that you have questions about. So first, we can go to the next slide. I want to say welcome to our new hires. Brianna, where are you? I know you're working. Is she? Oh, she's in the back. She's in the back. Brianna, can you come out and say hello? Brianna is our new administrative assistant. She started a couple of weeks ago. And maybe there she comes. Great. Hi, can you say hello and let us know who you are? Definitely. You will visit the room for warm welcome to you for young. I'm coming to PC and I'm super I've been to PC with 5 years of admin experience in the nonprofit sector, as well as a bachelor's degree in environmental studies. So I'm just truly excited to be here tonight with you guys and to be in a room with like-minded. So thank you guys for the warm welcome. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And everything's working smoothly, seamlessly because of Brianna and others that you're not seeing, making sure that all of the technology and everything works. Next, I wanted to introduce Roy Shu, who is our new Director of Power Resources. He has been with us since March 13th. He's down in Southern California. So Roy, can you say hello?
Sure. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Great, thank you. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Roy Shu. I'm the new Director of Power Resources. I'm very excited for this opportunity to join Peninsula Clean Energy. Prior to joining PCE, I worked for the City of Riverside for 10 years in its Public Utilities Department, serving as the Power Resource Manager for contracts and projects, and responsible for negotiating and managing utilities, long-term generation and transmission projects, as well as renewable power purchase agreements. So I hope I can use my experience in the industry to help PCE with meeting its procurement mandates and advancing its renewable goals. As Jen mentioned, I started last Monday, and this is my second week on the job. I'm already impressed by many in this organization, particularly my talented Power Resource team. And everyone has been so friendly and welcoming. I really look forward to working with you all going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Very excited to have you here. And the next person is Gwen Rhodes, who is our new Director of Marketing and Community Relations, rather. Gwen started on Monday. So tell us about yourself.
Yes, so 4 days in. So yeah, it's great to be here and here in person. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and I've been working in energy and climate for the past 20 years. I come here mostly for the solar industry, where I ran marketing for a company that's commercializing a new solar tracker called Sunfolding. And then actually my first job just out of college was with the County of Marin. And I remember when CCAs were just an idea, that was forming. So I feel in some ways I've been coming back to my roots, and I'm really excited to be here. The team is amazing. And I look forward to working with people on some exciting initiatives.
And she's not with us yet, but we have hired a new HR manager who will be starting next week. So we've got a great team here, and we're going to continue to do all the great things that we've been doing up till now. So we have a couple of positions posted. One is Chief Executive Officer. As you know, I'm retiring as of June 30th. Hopefully we'll stay around and do a little bit of consulting for the organization. And we're also hiring a couple, actually 3 power resources analysts or specialists to build up the rest of the resources that we need for our team. So if you know of any good candidates for any of those positions, please have them go to our website and apply ASAP. Okay, let's go on to the next slide, please. I just wanted to give a legislative update courtesy of Mark here. As you know, our local senator is Josh Becker, and we have an exciting development to share this evening that we are working with Senator Josh Becker on SB 537 to be one of the lead sponsors for some legislation in Sacramento. And in a meeting with Senator Becker and the members of the board, we talked to the senator about supporting a bill to make it possible for Peninsula Clean Energy to continue meetings remotely. And prior to the bill introduction deadline, Senator Becker filed SB 537, indicating his intent to move ahead with such legislation. The details of this legislation are in print, and we will include the link to the legislation in the newsletter that we send out to you tomorrow. Basically, the key provisions will make it possible for us to go back to the way we were last time, which is basically meeting remotely and continuing to conduct business the way we have for the past 3 years. And this legislation would apply only to organizations like ours that have members from multiple jurisdictions across large geographic areas. The remote meeting provision will be limited to board members like those at PCE who are appointed to their positions and not directly elected to the post. And so we will be reaching out to you and your jurisdictions for support of this bill, which we had all talked about beforehand and asked to have something like this put together. In the legislative report that you received in the packet, we also noted our concern with the governor's use of a budget proposal to broaden the scope of energy procurement through a central procurement entity to establish a capacity payment penalty for resource adequacy deficiencies and to clarify the PUC's integrated resource authority over CCAs. And you know, some of these things are near and dear to us, particularly our procurement authority, and also because of the way the resource adequacy market is run, we have some ideas about penalties, whether they should exist or not. So recently, the Legislative Analyst's Office opined that these measures were not appropriately made part of the budget process and should be put in front of legislative policy committees, basically that they should be discussed and legislation should be around them rather than putting them in the budget and pushing it through that way. We agree with the Legislative Analyst's Office, and we have deep concerns about the substance of the initiative. And we are encouraged that there is some momentum building for a policy bill that will address these issues and remove them from the budget process, but that has not yet happened, and we'll be monitoring this and we'll keep you updated as more information becomes available. Next Thursday night, we will be at the all-electric or at the Sustainable San Mateo County Awards Night. Again, this has been on hold for the last 3 years, and it'll be fun to be there again. And we are going to be presenting the 2023 All-Electric Awards. We have 4 award winners that will be presenting that night. One is for the Atherton Library, the picture on the right, for the Outstanding Commercial Project. Then the second one, I think it's the next one second from the right, is a accessory dwelling unit in Redwood City for the award for Outstanding Residential New Construction. The next photo is for an inspirational residential project, and the last one is for a single family home in San Mateo for residential modernization. So if you're going to be there, it'll be exciting to see you there, and we'll have some videos about all of these projects, and the award winners will be there at the event. So hope to see you there. Next, please. Since we're all here tonight, how about coming back next day for board orientation from 6 to 9 p.m. We are going to have board orientation. It's designed for new board members and alternates, but of course everyone is welcome to attend and get a refresh on what we're doing. We have some updated board training videos that we're going to be releasing shortly before the training. And then we will have the in-person meeting here in our lobby, and we'll be going over the history and overview of our strategic goals and core functions. Roy, who you just heard from, will be up here to give a California Energy Market 101 training, and then all of the different directors for the different teams will be here to discuss what's going on and answer your questions, and then we'll talk about board meeting logistics as well. Next is our board mentor program. We talked about this last time, and Vice Chair Coulson has proposed that new board members be partnered with tenured board members during their first year of service just to help you out. And I think Pradeep Gupta also offered that as well during his public comment to help you with understand any technical issues. So I don't know, Donna, if you have had any information on people who signed up for this, but
I didn't organize it, but I think if anybody, meeting with Nellie,
yeah.
So if anybody's interested in getting paired up with someone, an existing board member, or if you're existing and you're willing to do it, can you just email Nellie and we'll work it out to pair everybody up. And I think it's just so that, like, if there's something before the board meeting in the packet that you want to review and you just want to check in with someone who's been around for a while and ask some questions, I think it would be a nice way to have a partner who's been here for a while who can maybe help you out with some history or background and to facilitate the meetings to go a little easier and to help you feel a little more comfortable.
Great.
I'm willing to be a mentor if anybody wants.
And of course, when you get the packet, if you have any questions and you want to contact me, please feel free to do that as well. And either I'll answer the questions or I'll get you to the right staff person to dig in deeper with any questions you might have.
Well, let me add, for all those members that are new, this is a very technical business. I mean, there are board members that have only been on a year or maybe 2 years, and it's been kind of a challenging period because of COVID, and we haven't met in person. But even if you've only been on a year or 2 years, it's technical because it's managing the electricity business. And we're by far the biggest provider of electricity in San Mateo County. So, and we're recognized within the CCA community as a leader in terms of the strategies that we put forward, there's serious challenges in being able to realize those strategies, which we're going to be discussing over this next year. And all of you are going to be deeply involved in that conversation because it's a big task. So I strongly encourage you to go to plan to come to these training sessions next week. Most of us that have been on the board for quite a long time were trained by Pradeep, and he's really technical, and it was really excellent, and it changed our understanding of the business, which has helped us to be more strategic. So I think we can be more strategic, but it requires knowledge to be good at the strategy. And therefore, I encourage you to come to the session next week. And I encourage the current board members to offer to be mentors. I think Donna's idea is a really good idea. I don't think we've lined up how to make that happen. But maybe the first thing is for current board members that are willing to be mentors to kind of raise their hands and let Nellie know. And we've got hands from Marty Medina, Dave Pine, myself, and Donna. And Pradeep, which I think covers our new board members. So let Nellie make those connections between all of you. But it's really true that you're not going to get this through osmosis. You're only going to get this by really paying attention and coming and learning. And it's a big task, but those of you that have been here even for just a couple of years know that this is a really big opportunity. And we have an opportunity to make a really serious impact, not just in our local communities, but throughout the state, because the CCA movement is, it's not slowing down. Yes.
Is there anything in the board orientation content that it cannot be made hybrid? Is it possible?
Well, Jan can answer that, but the staff is putting together a series of remote presentations that you can access.
Yeah, we have on the website now videos that each department did a while ago. We're updating those and putting the new ones up. As far as the board orientation on Wednesday, is that, Sean, do you know if that's going to be hybrid as well? If people are not even up to that.
I believe that it is, but Nellie is organizing that. Nellie, can you hear the question?
Yeah, it will be hybrid. I am one of those who will be presenting hybridly. So we'll be using the same technology as tonight for that night.
Thank you.
So if you can't come in person, please come.
Right. That's an important clarification. Leslie.
I'll be flying to the East Coast, so I don't even know that I'll be able to access. So any video that can be shared would be fantastic.
Great.
We hope to upload the new videos tomorrow or Monday at the latest. Can you record, I'm sure, the meeting?
Yeah, we can try to record the meeting.
I promise to watch.
Here. Okay. Next slide, please. So we have a number of subcommittees that the board serves on, where we will meet with you, just a smaller group of you, a non-quorum amount of board members, to dig deeper into some of the things that we're working on. And so we're still looking for more board members or alternate board members to serve on the marketing subcommittee and the procurement subcommittee. So if you have any interest, please let Nellie know.
And just to underscore that, if you have alternates that have particular expertise, like my alternate was particularly expert, has a strong marketing focus. So your alternates can join these subcommittees. And she joined the marketing subcommittee and was quite active in it. And I would encourage you to have your alternates participate, because just any exposure to what we're doing will help them get better understanding of it.
And lastly, the upcoming meetings. So executive committees meeting April 10th here at 10 o'clock. The Citizens Advisory Committee, April 13th here at 6:30. The next board meeting will be here April 27th. And the Audit Finance Committee is currently scheduled for May 8th. We may be trying to move that date up one more week. And we'll let you know if that changes. So that's all that I have for tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Any questions for Jan?
It's really great to see everyone, and the regulars from the last 6 and 7 years, and all of you who are new. So welcome, and what we do, just to kind of bolster what Rick said, the stuff that we do here is really fun. It's really exciting, and we are changing the world. And that's why all of us who work here are so dedicated and so excited about what we do. And we're really grateful that you're able to spend time to help us in that mission.
And there's no illusion that we know the answers. we really think this is an open field for figuring out what's right for our communities. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Citizens Advisory Committee report, which Cheryl Schaff will provide.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Chair DeGolia and members of the board. This Citizens Advisory Committee happily returned to in-person meetings on Thursday, March 9th at Peninsula Clean Energy's office. We were eager to finalize a draft recommendation developed by our working group on building electrification education. Before we did that, Blake Hershaft, Buildings Program Manager, gave an overview of PCE incentives for electrification of existing buildings. He explained that 0% loans were so popular that soon he would request that you allocate more funds to the program. Jason Mendelson, Building Electrification Education Working Group Chair, walked the CAC through each segment of the draft recommendation and led a healthy, long discussion about revisions. The committee unanimously passed the final version of the recommendation. Here are some highlights. The Citizens Advisory Committee wholeheartedly and excitedly supports, endorses, and recommends the adoption of the staff proposal for Building Electrification 2.0. CAC members believe it is both necessary and incredibly helpful in targeting the goals of PCE to electrify buildings and eliminate reliance on fossil fuels. The CAC supports the additional funding of $1 million for the zero interest loan program and fully supports the BE 2.0 program funding as part of future budget setting. Some specific suggestions included, and I'm going to really just highlight some of the high-level details. Tell RHA to make sure operating appliances are never disconnected before new ones are ready for connection. Prioritize emergency installations. Make purchasing and capacity a requirement for contractors. Make enhanced customer satisfaction and customer support part of the plan. Track success and customer experience. Contractors should be required to warranty their work so customers are assured that this new technology will work. Establish criteria for identifying and installing reliable appliances. Share information with renters of how to talk to landlords about building electrification. Next, Kirsten Andrews-Schwinn, Senior Manager of Community Relations, prepared us for upcoming outreach opportunities. She gave us take-home copies of PCE key messages, talking points about energy programs and electrification, and general advice about representing PCE at Earth Day celebrations and other events. I asked the chair of each working group to update our committee with a brief description of their group's scope, process, and results. Groups will submit written reports next month. Vanessa Shin, Community Outreach Specialist, suggested that we encourage individuals to apply for open positions on the CAC by the deadline of March 31st. After this meeting, we learned that Ed Love of Half Moon Bay had resigned due to other commitments. This completes my report. If you want to read the full text of the recommendation, it starts on page 57 of your packet. And what questions may I answer for you?
Cheryl, maybe you could briefly describe the criteria or what the CAC is looking for in terms of applicants?
And number. How many?
And how many?
Yeah, I'll defer to Kirsten on how many. I think it's 3 or 4. Really, it's just someone who is really interested in this area. You don't have to be a Pradeep to be on the CAC. You don't have to be nearly as technical, but if you have an interest in it, you should apply. We're particularly trying to find, in terms of demographics, more folks who are in the Latino community. But other than that, I think Kirsten and you guys have done a great job of pretty much dispersing members throughout our service area. So just folks who are interested and have the bandwidth to do it, because we have had a couple of folks leave us due to other commitments.
Okay, great. No, Kirsten's on, but Vanessa was shaking her head, 3 to 4.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is appointments to the executive and the audit finance committee. Let me give a little bit of background on this. Every year, as a board, we're a large board, 23 members. Our process is in January, we identify a nominating committee to select the board and chair and vice chair, and people who are interested in those positions submit that to the nominating committee. The nominating committee is selected by the executive committee, and the nominating committee then recommends the board and vice chair at the February meeting. The board votes at that February meeting. The board and vice chair then recommend a 9-member executive committee and a 5-member audit and finance committee, which is recommended at the March meeting, which is where we're at right now. So that's just to give you some perspective on our annual sort of decision-making flow within the internal board and our subcommittees. And I announced at the last meeting that anybody that was interested in applying for a position on either the audit and finance committee or the executive committee to contact me or Donna between that last meeting and tonight. And we are recommending a 9-person executive committee, which is made up of myself, Donna, Julia Mates from Belmont, Carlos Romero from East Palo Alto, Anders Fung from Millbrae, Jeff Alves from Portola Valley, Marty Bendina from San Bruno, Dave Pine from San Mateo County, and Colleen Mackin from Brisbane. And we are recommending a 5-person audit and finance committee, which is made up of Donna Polson from Burlingame, Carlos Romero from East Palo Alto, Jeff Alves from Portola Valley, Marty Medina from San Bruno, and Leslie Ragsdale from Hillsborough. And we have the authority to appoint interim in the event that somebody drops off, and it's not uncommon for somebody to get too busy and need to drop off from one of these committees. So I keep a list of anyone that's interested in filling a vacancy, and I've got a couple names of people who've contacted me recently, but I just want to encourage anyone who has that interest to let me or Donna know as we go forward. And the proposal before the board is to vote up or down these recommended appointees to these committees. Should we do it separately?
Probably easiest. Well, I don't know. You could do both slates at once if you want, unless someone objects to that. It is by slate though, so.
Make a motion.
Okay, please.
I was gonna make the motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to move both slates.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Betsy. Let's do a roll call.
Okay, thank you. If I could get the motion maker again, I missed that.
The motion maker is Ray Mueller and seconded by Betsy Nash.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, San Mateo County?
Yes.
San Mateo County?
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont, Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma,
Yes.
Daly City,
Yes.
East Palo Alto,
Yes.
yep. Foster City, Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos,
Yes.
Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
excuse me, Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley,
The people that
Portola Valley,
Aye.
Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, and Woodside.
Yes.
Thank you. And the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the next item on the agenda is a financial report to the board. This is the mid-year financial report. So it's a review through our second quarter of the fiscal year.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Christina Alvarez-Cordero, the Chief Financial Officer for PCE. Good to meet you all in person. And this report out to the board is was made at the request of the executive committee. For some background, the executive committee and the audit and finance committee both received presentations on the mid-year financial performance of Peninsula Clean Energy. The timing was also the Monday after Silicon Valley Bank failure. So really appropriate to say, let's move to the first slide. On our agenda here, the first point that we'll cover is there's no direct impact of Silicon Valley Bank failure on PCE finances. The other items that will be covered in this presentation is really yeah.
So when you say no direct, so were there indirect impacts?
I can speak to that.
I mean, we have money in it, it was uninsured, or we didn't, that's all.
So the four items that we'll cover in this finance update is just the impact of Silicon Valley Bank failure on PCE, directly or indirectly. Summary of PCE's financial policies. A summary of PCE's financial practices, procedures, and calendar, and then a link to PCE's financial reporting document. Just again, as an overview of what will be covered today, really our financial engagement and education. So this is a high-level overview, and we'll link to the PCE financial reporting documents that were shared with the executive committee and the audit and finance committee in the packet, and then also are posted to our website. Let's move on to the next slide. So as a first summary, no direct impact on PCE finances from Silicon Valley Bank failure. And what that means very specifically, there was no exposure to SVB as a counterparty bank in any of our energy product agreements. We do not hold any Silicon Valley Bank holdings in our investment portfolio. We have no payments to PCE vendors through Silicon Valley Bank as a vendor deposit bank. And we don't have bank deposits there. As way of background, one of the things that, again, is part of our financial education, and just reminding folks, PCE's active bank deposits are with First Republic. And as our operating bank, just providing some background and overview of guarantees, everyone's individual bank deposits are guaranteed at that $250,000 level by the FDIC insurance amount. Beyond that, as a California, as a governmental institution,
bank deposits are further guaranteed by Government Code Section 16522. So First Republic is our operating bank. The monies that we deposit, because we are a governmental institution, are backed by a letter of credit. So an overall guarantee and irrevocable letter of credit by the Federal Home Loan Bank of San Francisco, federal government AAA backed entity. Let's move to the next slide. Yes.
Next question. If, although they're backed, if there is any issue, they'll be locked, right?
They will. So the amounts, when you say locked,
we won't have access to them.
I don't know what the time frame would be as far as access, but those funds we would have access to because they are backed by that letter of credit facility by Federal Bank of San Francisco. Just ensure our financial stability. Again, laying the groundwork for how we've operated when the board adopted financial policies, how we adhere to them and continue to reflect back on them and ensure that we're proceeding under those guidelines. We have policies 18, 19, and 17 that are PCE's board adopted financial policies. Policy 18 establishes financial reserve requirements. And this policy was last revised in February of 2021. That policy calls for us to maintain 180 days of operating reserves and unrestricted cash. Policy 19 in our investment policy was last revised in May of 2020. I feel like I need glasses. The purpose of that policy is to protect our pooled cash while producing a reasonable rate of return. So policies that have been passed that we adhere to and report on. And policy 17, our disbursement policy, provides for procedures for how we disperse funds, ensuring that we have financial control and segregation of duties, particularly for wire transfers. And that was last revised in January of 2019. Let's move to the next slide. This is a description of our practices and procedures, how we adhere to our policies, and what is the reporting that we typically undergo to our committees and board. So we have monthly internal reporting and review of financial performance. So every month we're looking at our revenues and expenditures as an executive team, as department leads. How are we tracking to budget and what's causing some of those variances? Are there things that we need to change or pay attention to? Again, looking at this on a monthly basis. On a quarterly basis, internal and external reporting and review of financial performance. Cash reporting and projections performance against PCE's reserve policy is done at the Audit and Finance Committee. So every other month, typically the Audit and Finance Committee meets, and at the quarterly reporting periods, there's a quarterly report that's produced and shared and discussed in the Audit and Finance Committee. And then also this quarterly interval, our actual versus budget financial variance reporting. And then our investment holdings and performance review and reporting is also part of that Audit and Finance meeting. Let's move on to the next slide. Please. And this is an overview of the PCE finance calendar. So really appropriate that we had executive committee and provided the update on PCE's overall position financially mid-year and an update on the Silicon Valley Bank impact, no impact to PCE directly. This is an overview of the finance calendar. In part to let you know where we are in the current finance year, if you will, and cycle, and what's coming next. So the board, and to orient you to this, I've listed out the months on the left-hand side, starting with July of 22, which is the first month of the current fiscal year, and then it proceeds down to June of 23, which is the last month of the current fiscal year. The next column orients you to the prior fiscal year end 2022, for the year that started in 21 and then ended in 22. And then the most right-hand column is the current fiscal year 23, 22-23. And we're here in March. And in this March timeframe, we are developing the fiscal year end 24 budget. That's happening at the staff level. We've had reporting in the prior month of how we performed through the first half of the current fiscal year. And then what will come to the Audit and Finance Committee, as well as to the board, will be a first draft of the fiscal year end 24 budget in May. And it will come again, the budget for fiscal year 24 in June. And that's the time frame that the final budget is reviewed by the Audit and Finance Committee, and then hopefully recommended to the board for adoption, and then the board viewing that and also adopting the final budget in June of 2023. Let me move on to the next slide, please. Need at the executive committee to provide a snapshot and where are we financially, and what steps are being undertaken to further strengthen PPE's financial position and resilience. The prior slides really reiterate what have we put into place policy-wise, how do we practice, and what's our procedure to ensure that we're following those policies and reporting out to staff and to committees and to the board. And in that executive committee discussion, in the Monday after Silicon Valley Bank's failure, we took the steps of further diversifying financial institutions that hold our liquid assets, and started the opening of 2 highly liquid and accessible money market accounts at brokerage firms. The first, we've successfully opened a Fidelity money market account, and was funded last week with nearly 1 month's worth of expenditures at $20 million. We'll maintain our operating account at the public bank, and keep that funded at 1 month of operations on deposit, and are also opening a third brokerage firm account with Schwab, so that we, again, are taking the approach of diversification as a way to mitigate overall risk. That's really practice for PPE financially, operationally, and these are the steps that we're taking and have been taking since the executive committee meeting a couple weeks ago. Let me switch over to the next slide.
Maybe ask if there's any questions.
Oh yes, that's probably good. Thank you, Donna.
Can we go back to that slide we were just on? So I wanna open it up really quick for questions if anyone has them. So what was going on here? Our financial position is such that we're getting about $1 million of cash flow, I think almost a day, coming in through the organization now. And so we have been building up in our First Republic Bank account, and the other one is, remind me again. Wilmington Trust. So obviously that's well in excess of an FDIC insured level. And so we're just commingled in with other bank deposits. We additionally have 2 actively managed short-term fixed income separate accounts that are one with PFM, and we have one with First Republic Bank. Those assets are sitting in with a custodian bank, and they're held in our name. So the investment manager is simply a facilitator of trading. If anything were to happen to First Republic Bank or were to happen to PFM, those securities would remain in our name, and we would simply hire a new investment manager. So they're not insured, but they are held in our name. So we don't have the risk of commingling in a big bank deposit pool that should go under. Now, Janet Yellen has come out and said that, you know, the US government is going to stand behind all bank deposits. I'm sure that was just to calm the markets down, and we'll see what's going to happen if that were to happen. And I think it is helping to stem sort of the nervousness in the markets. And today and yesterday financials were regaining and steadying. But in order to diversify and not have everything again at First Republic Bank and at PFM, we went ahead, like the quickest, most easy way to do that was to set up these 2 money market accounts that are also backed with securities underlying them. So they're not FDIC insured, but we really weren't anyway in these banks, but they are held with an NAV. And if you follow money market accounts and highly liquid accounts, only one fund in the history of the markets has really ever broken the buck and broken the NAV. So
what does NAV mean?
Net asset value. So it's like the par value of, they mark to market every day, all those securities. So we can feel comfortable that we know what's in them and what the value is and the return that we're going to be getting on them. And again, they're backed by individual securities, not sort of a pool of amorphous investments that are in a bank deposit situation. So we feel like now we've diversified into numerous accounts. These accounts still have like 25 million-ish, 25 million in them. So they're very large. And I think, Christina, I want to thank you. I think you did a really good job, and Jan Pepper as well, sort of being right on top of this and expediting it. And I feel very comfortable now that we're in a good position going forward to protect the almost, what do we have, 200 some odd million in cash sitting.
She'll get into that. But the bottom line, we moved about half the amount of money in a customer account that was at First Republic Bank, which was about $40 million. We moved half of that into Fidelity in a very protected account. And we moved the money that was at Wilmington Trust, or we're moving the money that was at Wilmington Trust, which we no longer have the level of relationship that we used to have. We're moving that money, and they're a regional bank, we're moving that into Schwab. So, those investments that Donna described, which are held in our name, they're not at risk. What would be at risk is what's in your customer account that could get locked by the bank. So we feel like we made a good move the day after the SVB deal came down, and we're quite protected, notwithstanding that we've got a lot of money in the bank, but the amounts of money that we have in the bank, Christina, is about 2%.
Yeah. Right. Just that government code that you said we're not limited to be insured at 250,000. Is there a limit on, because we're a government agency? What is the limit of that government code?
There is not a backing to that government code. Essentially, it is the code that banks must follow when holding deposits of governmental agencies. So every week, banks must produce how much in governmental deposits are they holding, and then publish and show that they are holding securities to back that are collateralizing the same amount of governmental deposits by 110% of those governmental deposits, or providing a letter of credit that is also at 105% of those governmental deposits. So there's no limit on how much that backing and collateralization can be. It's more a banks, you must operate and show us that you have this collateralization that matches the size of governmental deposits that you're holding.
So does that mean if a bank goes bankrupt, that government money gets paid back first? Is that what that means?
I don't know. I don't know the order of what gets paid back first, but that is the backing, the collateralization would be utilized to fund those governmental deposits that have been identified. I'm happy to take more questions and write them down and come back with specificity if I am able to answer. Thank you.
Go ahead. First of all, thank you for the questions. I really appreciate it. The question, and I assume it's onerous to move our operating completely out of First Republic Bank because of the number of cash flow that's going out to vendors and operations. But is there a plan in place to start to look at what that looks like? Because it's not, First Republic isn't, their situation isn't getting better.
I think doing that scan and that research is prudent. When we look at sister CCA agencies and where they're banking, there's a number of things that we should really assess. One, fundamentally, you're seeing diversification of our exposure to banking institutions and how protected are we, paying attention to the news, service quality, all of those things closely. But at this point, I think our desire really is to stay with First Republic, limit how much we're keeping as far as operating cash, and making 1 month of cash really accessible with 2 other institutions that we could wire from instantaneously if we needed, maybe not instantaneously, but same day.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Go ahead.
Great, thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
Have we checked with First Republic in terms of their compliance with that state law?
We have. We have been provided with the backup documentation of Federal Home Loan Bank being the way that they're complying with the government code. And also, I have not yet obtained it, but have talked with other sister CCA agencies that bank at a regional bank where there is significant CCA deposit concentration. So thinking about diversity and concentration and what kind of risk factors those are, kind of paying attention to how much in bank deposits does this particular bank have this week, and what are they showing in terms of how they're meeting that government code, if it's with letter of credit or if it's with holding of collateralized securities. But I will obtain that.
Just comprehensive. We should probably do that with all the other institutions.
There would be 2.
Yeah, exactly.
This one, the one they could.
Right. And then not the set, there's another one that they listed.
2. Yeah, but those are MMAs.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. If we can go to the next slide. This is a pull from the Executive and Audit and Finance Committee presentation of our cash position at mid-year, so the end of December 2022, showing our compliance with our reserve policy. Our policy requires that we maintain 180 days of operations in unrestricted cash. At the end of December, we had about 219 days of cash on hand. This is a snapshot that's provided at the end of every quarter and shared in Audit and Finance Committee, as well as other documents. I abbreviated this presentation to really address the overall discussion of what are we doing post Silicon Valley Bank's failure, what's going on in the market, where are we? The next slide points us to links to PCE financial reporting documents. In our key documents portion of our website, we have audited financial statements and then these quarterly financial reports. Additionally, the presentations from the Executive Committee as well as the Audit and Finance Committee that last met have more comprehensive, here's the Q2 look. But I didn't put it here on this slide deck. I thought that this would be a more abbreviated, this is our status update. But bigger picture, this is really laying the foundation for, we're going to be coming to you all with the draft budget for fiscal year 24 in May, and then the final budget in June. A view of where we're performing through the mid-year and how we're really outperforming is part of the backup documents in the Audit and Finance and Executive Committee presentation. I'm happy to answer questions or make any additional comments if that's helpful.
Is this the end of your report?
It is, yeah.
Any questions? Well, I have a question, or maybe it's a combination of a question and a comment. Mm-hmm. I was at the Executive Committee. I saw the report on the projections for the next 6 months. When we had adopted the budget last year, as I recall, and my recollection could be faulty here, but as I recall, we were expecting to generate approximately $70 million of cash in excess of expenses over the year. And as those of you that haven't been here will see, things change. And they change quite dramatically because we're so subject to PG&E's generation rates and to the PUC's PCIA rate, the exit fee that we cover for our customers, which is very significant. And it's very significant when it goes up, and it's very significant when it goes down. And we were looking at generating approximately $70 million of revenue this year, or of receipts in excess of expense this year, because that PCIA had gone down. And based on the projections coming off of December, it looked like that number was going to increase to about $104 million for the year. And that's in excess, and that's on the top of, I mean, not the 104, but whatever we generate in the 6 months from January 1st to June 30th is in excess of the 220 days of cash that we currently have in the bank. So one of the issues that came up at the executive committee, which really was just referred to, it wasn't a big discussion, was what are we going to do with cash? Because we've got a lot of cash. We're not a bank. We're not interested in being a bank. Every other CCA has gone through similar experiences over the past year, because as the PCIA goes down, the amount of revenue that they receive in excess of their expenses goes up. And it's quite dramatic. Many of them have increased their discount and looked at other ways to deal with that cash. Our discount throughout this entire period has been the highest discount in the CCA community. We've been at 5%. Many CCAs went to 0% discount, and some of them actually were more expensive for their generation rates than PG&E or Southern California Edison, but we retained at 5%. And in the last few months, we've seen a number of CCAs increase their discounts from 1% to 4%, which is what Silicon Valley did. And there's a couple of them that have gone up to 4%. And I think the issue for us that staff ought to look at, and maybe Audit and Finance ought to look at and make a recommendation to the board on, is what are we going to do with this cash? Personally, I feel like there's something, we shouldn't just build cash. We should decide what we should do with the cash. And obviously one option is to increase the discount, which always looks good to our customers. And I mean, I don't think it just looks good to our customers. Our customers are in need, and it is good for our customers. But we need to have that discussion at the board level. So I would request that, I'm not sure when the Audit and Finance Committee is meeting next, but I'd like to have that discussion at the next board meeting to think about what we should be doing with that. And we don't have to make an absolute decision at the next board meeting. It's a big decision to make a change, but we need to begin that discussion.
And Chair DeGoya, I think in response to that, really setting up what the budget discussions and development looks like at the Audit and Finance and the first viewing for providing those ranges and sensitivities, because a projection, as soon as you make it, is going to be wrong. You're 99.9% going to be wrong. So giving us a sense of how much can we tolerate for being wrong, millions of dollars plus or minus, because right now we're talking about generating a surplus. We budgeted a surplus of $74 million for the current fiscal year. Given halfway through the year performance, we will beat that because of the rate increases being higher than what we've projected. But in prior years, we had operating deficits. So thinking about everything in balance from a time perspective, and what are the trade-offs when you're kind of pulling on these various levers, financially positive or negative, positive variances on revenue or negative variances on revenue, have, multi-year implications. So being able to show that in our budget discussion is definitely part of the plan.
Great. Any other questions or comments? I don't see any other questions or comments. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is approval of budget extension of our 0% loan on bill financing program.
Hi, members of the board. My name is Alejandra Posada. I'm an associate program manager. I work in our program team, and I've been with Municipal Energy for a long time, 5.5 years. So I've been here since the beginning, and it's great to see everyone in person again in community basis. So I'm going to be talking here about our 0% loan program, which launched recently, but has already exceeded the budget that we initially allocated for it. It has been a really popular program. It is really strong demand, so we're excited to hear some information about that. Next slide. The request is to allocate an additional $1 million in funding, so to determine the total budget to the program to $2 million. Next slide. A little bit of an overview about our building electrification incentives that we currently have in some background. In January 2021, we launched our heat pump water heater rebate. Back then it was smaller, it was only $1,000, and again, it was only water heaters. And back then, one of the big differences in how the program operates now is that it is strictly through the Bay Area Home Plus program. The Bay Area Home Plus program is a Bay Area-wide program that offers rebates for electrification and energy efficiency. So our heat pump water heater rebate was fully integrated with that program, so that was the only way for residents to be able to access our own rebate is through that single application. In October of last year, we made some significant changes in addition to the building electrification rebates that we offer. So we increased our heat pump water heater rebate to $3,000. We added a new heat pump HVAC rebate, $3,500. We also have a short-term $500 bonus for installations that are completed by the end of March 31st, so this month. And then we added a pathway for residents to apply for the rebate outside of Bay Rent. So now there's 2 ways for residents to apply, like the integrated way with Bay Rent, that's more streamlined, and then a way directly through us for projects that don't qualify for Bay Rent or for residents are not working with Bay Rent contractors or even doing their projects themselves. So there's a lot more options for qualifying now. And then we also launched the 0% loan program. So all of this is rolled out at the same time in October of last year. One of the big things that went into effect this year too was the Inflation Reduction Act, so the IRA tax credits. So it is $2,000 for heat pump HVAC systems or for heat pump water heaters. And we know that there was a lot of residents that were waiting until this year to complete their projects so that they could get that tax credit. Next slide. So this chart shows the amount of applications and just really, if you click on the next slide, it's a little circle, but it just shows the spike in applications. So it kind of goes back to January or to early 2021. Again, back then it was water heater applications, and you can see since October of last year, the applications have significantly increased. Right now this chart was up as of a few days ago, and I think we've already gotten like 20 more since then. So there is a lot of demand in this. I think a lot of it right now is also due to the $500 bonus that's set to expire at the end of this month. But regardless, there's a lot more demand. Next slide. This one shows the breakdown of applications. So before we used to only offer water heater rebates, as well as the electrical panel bonus rebates. We don't offer standalone electrical panel rebates, but if it's required for the water heater to be installed, we do offer that as a bonus rebate, so we continue to do that. But we can see here is that the dark blue is the water heater application, and then the purple is the heat pump HVAC application. So more than 50% of the applications that we get now are for heat pump HVAC systems. So that's part of what's driving the demand as well too, because we didn't have that rebate before. Next slide. So some of the assessment of why we're seeing this demand. So as I mentioned, the IRA tax credit started in January of 2023. Since then, I think there's been a lot more information about heat pumps and the benefits of heat pumps and water heaters, and just electrification generally. And I think a lot of people were waiting
to do the projects until they could take advantage of the credits. Also the effects of the program changes that I outlined that we took in October, which were all significant together. I think some of the demand, it's, it could be pent-up demand that people that were waiting on their projects. It may taper, but we really don't know. It could continue to grow, from what we know too. So I guess that's to be seen. And just as a data point that even though we are getting a lot of good applications now and we're doing these projects, which is great, our impact is still relatively small compared to the overall replacement market. So just for water heaters, specifically, approximately 12,000 water heaters were replaced per year in the county. So even if we give like 300 rebates, that's still just 2 heat pump water heaters, the majority are still gas. Next slide. So more about the 0% loan program, which again was launched in October. It was a $1 million capital fund program. So customers can get a loan up to $10,000 per electric account. The term can be between 2 and 10 years. The customer can choose, though probably like 80% of them are choosing the 10-year term. The 0% interest. Also, no credit spread required. Really, what we're looking for is that they're making their payments of the PG&E bill in full, and it's for heat pump water heaters and heat pump HVAC systems. Next slide. So this just shows where our budget is. The $1 million budget is now. So this includes funds that we have spent and also loans that we have reserved. Customers are required to apply for the loan before they actually install the equipment and do the project. So we've issued about 30 loans so far, and the remainder of them are just ones that have been reserved. There's probably 60 more that have been reserved. So this is just shows that we're nearly fully reserved with their $1 million. Next slide. This shows the number of applications. I think the screenshot was also a few days ago. So I think March is likely on track to be same as February. We got 60 applications just last month. Next slide. And then just to summarize the request again, it's an additional $1 million to add to the 0% loan program, taking this to a $2 million budget. Thank you.
Any questions from members of the board? Okay, I don't see any questions. Let me see if there's any public comment. I don't see any public comment in the room. Online, Dave Morrow.
Yeah, good evening, Chairman Golier and Board of Directors. I have 2 easy questions. In the agenda packet, it says the fiscal impact. It says the loans are to be repaid by the customers. I assume those are the customers taking out the loans. Is that correct?
The residents are the ones taking out the loan. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so that's not ratepayers. And do you guys have like what's your rate of is there anybody default? Is there a default rate on any of these loans?
Have we looked at it yet? They just started in October.
Yeah, so not so far. We've only about 6 loans have actually been added to the bills.
Yeah.
Because we only send
so that 846,000 that was shown is almost entirely reserved funds for loans that have not yet been granted, but are in process of being granted, right? There's only 6 loans have been granted. So it's too early to do a default rate analysis, but certainly that's something we will be doing as we get deeper into the loans.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a great program. I think in order to accomplish what PCE is out to do is, obviously eliminate greenhouse gases. I think I would be in favor of extending another $1 million for this. I think you're going to start to see a lot of people start doing this type of work. It's gonna happen, and this just incentivizes the public to do this. I think this is a great program, and I would do whatever I can to support this effort on your part.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Is there any other public comment? I don't see any other public comments, so I'll close public comment. Any comments from members of the board? Yes, Dawn.
Is another million enough? I guess another way to put it is when you guys get to 75% drawdown and you're getting close, if it's, please let us know, I think, so that we could extend more. We have a lot of money sitting in the bank and this is a really good program. I'd rather have it sitting in our clients and our residents' accounts working for them than in ours. So
there is additional funding contemplated in the upcoming budget.
Great.
Good. Yeah, just looking at 60 applications last month and 30 applications this month. If people are taking $10,000, obviously $1 million is 100 applications. We're going to hit that by the end of the fiscal year.
And
so
yeah.
It's great that it's looked at in the budget.
And these are loans, so they come back to us.
Yeah, we're not giving money away. We're just making the money available at no cost so that people can electrify. Others?
I'm more interested in here.
More efficient.
What is the cost of actually servicing the loan?
The cost of certain, like the administration costs?
Yeah.
So we currently manage this program in-house. So I would have to get back to you on that because we don't track like our time split up like that. It would be easier to answer if we have like a third party administering it, but this one in particular we manage in-house.
Okay. So this is an action item.
There's no other discussion. I'd like to make a motion to extend the program, including an additional $1 million capital for a total of $2 million.
Thank you. Second, Anders. Okay. Could we please do a roll call? Stay there.
May I get who seconded, please?
Anders Fung.
Thank you. San Mateo County?
Yes.
San Mateo County? I heard one, not the other.
Yes.
Thank you. Atherton?
Yes.
Belmont? Brisbane?
Yes.
Burlingame?
Yes.
Colma?
Yes.
Kansas City?
Yes.
East Palo Alto?
Yes.
Foster City? Half Moon Bay?
Yes.
Hillsborough?
Yes.
Los Banos? Los Banos?
Yes.
Yeah. Menlo Park?
Yes.
Millbrae?
Yes.
Pacifica?
Yes.
Portola Valley?
Aye.
Redwood City?
Yes.
San Bruno?
Yes.
San Carlos?
Yes.
San Mateo?
Yes.
South San Francisco? And Woodside?
Yes.
Thank you. And the motion passes. Thank you.
There's some ones on. So it's my request, and we can take it up at a later. I actually do think it's important to figure out what the servicing cost is. These loans are going to carry for 10 years, and the cost of that is going to compound every year as you add more loans to it. So to be able to build a sustainable fund for that, so we know what to spend it over time, I think is important. And probably at some point there'll be somebody that you won't want to handle it in-house. So understanding that now, being an understanding that going forward is, especially when we're flush with cash at this moment, to put that aside to manage the program might be useful.
Thank you. We can use the time to actually to help out with the completion. So it has been more than we were set up to handle.
Absolutely.
Leslie?
Did I read somewhere that it's an add-on to their bill, so it's not like a separate process? I mean, I'm sure it's work to add it onto their bill, but it's not like a separate letter with envelope and all that goes out.
That's right, it's added to the bill. To the contractor that installs the project on the customer's behalf, and then we send the loan like to Calpine, which is their billing provider, and then they add it to the PG&E bill. So they're the ones tracking repayment, and we get monthly reports, but the whole repayment is just through the electricity bill, just like our generation charges.
How is it? I'm sorry, I'm curious. How is it handled then when the house is sold?
So when the house is sold, and really anytime that an account is closed, the customer would be required to pay the entire balance in full. So that's part of the loan agreement. Every customer that gets a loan does have to sign a loan agreement. It's pretty lengthy, so probably 14 pages or so. So that's just part of the term. They have to pay in full.
Okay, great. Let's move on. The next item on the agenda is the building electrification strategy update.
Hello, board. My name is Blake Hershaft. I am the Building Electrification Programs Manager of Peninsula Clean Energy. Thank you for having me. Very excited to present this tonight. This is one of the main reasons I came to Peninsula Clean Energy, helping to implement a strategy like this. We go to the next slide. Oh, I think I can control actually. I'm going to go through our 2035 decarbonization analysis results. Our vision for building electrification version 2. This is our big programs vision as we expand our programs. And that will include home upgrade version 2, which is our low income direct installation program for electrification. This is a summary of our programs portfolio. At the top, you'll see building. We focus on buildings, transportation, and distributed resources. Everything I'm talking about tonight focuses on existing buildings. Last year, at the direction of the board, we undertook a 2035 decarbonization analysis to determine how close we could get to full decarbonization in the county by 2035. As part of that analysis, we did a scoping exercise with the board. We determined that our primary scope for buildings would be residential, single family and multifamily buildings, offices, including local government buildings, and small commercial, leaving large commercial and large multifamily to be led by other programs that are happening throughout the state. Some results of that study noted that we need to offer flexible incentives, that high touch support is needed in order for customers to understand how to electrify their homes, and that links to financing, as we had just discussed during the last item, are going to be critical to enabling customers to electrify. As you heard earlier, the CAC supports the approach that I'm about to outline. CAC wholeheartedly and excitedly supports and endorses. There's a list within the board memo of items that they recommend, and the programs team generally agrees with all of those. So going into building electrification version 2, expanding our programs to what we hear is needed. We've heard these recommendations from throughout the 2035 study, input from the board, from council members during council meetings, from advocates, customers, the community, staff across PCE's departments, and also city staff who we talk to every month. We currently have an all-electric homes support, 0% loans, heat pump water heater rebates, heat pump space heating rebates, and the home upgrade program that's low-income installation of electrification measures. What we see as needed for building what we've heard is needed for building electrification 2.0. The current program provides incentives, but doesn't provide enough guidance and support. The updated program needs to address barriers that customers are facing. This is especially important if city councils are going to feel comfortable adopting existing building REACH codes. This is something we've discussed. We've seen at city council member meetings over the past year, and we've heard a lot of the challenges related to those. Some of those challenges include lack of clear information, difficulty selecting contractors and equipment, emergency replacements, such as when a water heater goes out, is very difficult to electrify when you need hot water. and there's limited time and money for customers. There are many different types of customers across the county. Some groups that I'm going to talk about now, people who want to choose their contractor or install themselves. There are also customers who just want it done and don't want to call multiple contractors for bids, or in an emergency and need a water heater immediately. And then there's a large group of customers who cannot afford electrification and who are important for us to serve. These are the overarching features that are needed. Retail partnerships, including partnerships in brick and mortar stores, helping to develop the supply chain. A one-stop website that includes an appliance marketplace and info and education, among other things. A hotline that can provide program navigation. There are many different rebates and it can be a confusing landscape. That can help with project planning for whole building electrification and provide technical guidance. A turnkey installation option is needed that can do the appliance installations, that can be called when an emergency equipment is needed, and that can help with pre-wiring or providing other electrification services and help develop the local workforce. In here, I have financing options, including PCE financing and maybe access through us to third-party financing, which is something we need to explore going forward. And then rebates cross-cut all of these offerings. And there are many different rebates from different sectors or different state agencies and federally. Those rebates come and go and can be difficult to navigate. I've color coded these. We're working through the process and plan to release an RFP later this year with the hope of launching the program on January 1st. That RFP would include hotline services. We are in discussion with potentially partnering with Silicon Valley Clean Energy on that portion of the scope. It would also include turnkey installation options and potentially load shaping as part of that RFP. The green items here are things that PCE is undertaking at the moment and wants to undertake in the next year as well. And then gray is future PCE scope soon in the future, but not a direct focus this calendar year. Our first priorities are a one-stop shop website that provides info and education, turnkey installation options, including direct installation from electricians and other contractors, a gas water heater loaner program or another emergency program to handle the emergency water heater issue. This is a big issue that customers are facing who want to electrify and whose equipment is burned out. Point of sale financing options, and then a hotline that can help customers with all kinds of levels of support, including technical guidance and rebate navigation and whole home electrification planning. One thing that we noticed through this process is that our home upgrade program, which I will talk more about in a second, really can serve as the anchor to serve other customer needs. Within our home upgrade program, which is our low income program, it can provide, as we grow that, it can provide us an opportunity to have a dedicated workforce, bulk purchase discounts, and embedded innovations that we can then offer to other customers that are not in the low income track. And for that program, we're envisioning a cost share turnkey program. So this would be, you can call up Peninsula Clean Energy for, let's say, a heat pump space heater to be installed. We would coordinate that installation. The cost would be paid by the customer. PCE rebates or other financing can be applied to that and would be applied seamlessly. And emergency replacements would be administered in the same way. I'm going to go into the largest part of the program in terms of the PCE budget, which would be Home Upgrade version 2. Our Home Upgrade program currently electrifies one thing per building and does minor home repair. And our vision for Home Upgrade version 2 would be to scale to whole home, offering whole home electrification for low-income homeowners, to increase the number of homes impacted per year, to capture federal, state incentives, to integrate with our turnkey offering that is offered to non-low income, and then develop a virtual power plant within that program For home upgrade version 2, we would like to offer solar, or we would like to explore solar and battery for some of our customers to help reduce bills and also provide grid resilience. When I talk about scaling to whole home, just wanted to summarize the cost. This is from our 2035 analysis. Whole home electrification done in an efficient way costs about $31,000 on average, and the costs are shown there. And then our goal is 250 homes per year. This aligns with our 2035 goals. Some contractors have said this is the minimum to get a dedicated workforce, which makes sense because there's about 250 work days in a year. So that can get you dedicated crews who will respond to your program quickly. We're planning ahead to capture federal and state incentives. I have some numbers on the left, but I'm going to explain the timeline here mostly. The Inflation Reduction Act has very healthy incentives for home electrification. That is going to be administered by the CEC and is targeted to come out late 2023 to early to mid 2024. We would like our program to be ramped up in time for that to be launched. The IRA rebates will run out eventually. We're expecting those to last about 1.5 years. The CEC Equitable Decarbonization Funding is another funding opportunity that is set to be launched around the same time, but should last a little bit longer. To give you an idea, the $31,000 that it costs to electrify a home, if we're able to work with those incentives, and we have some safety factors in here. So this is basically what would happen on average if they go the way we expect them to. That cost to PC would be more like $13,000 if we're able to integrate with the federal and state programs. And this is an idea of the total budget and the total budget implications. On the left, I have the total cost of installing at those homes and then some administration costs for the turnkey program. In the middle green bars are savings from different programs off from those programs that I discussed previously. And then the remaining spend. This is an early estimate. The RFP will give us a better idea of what the program cost would be, and during contract negotiations with that, we're through that competitive process. And then closing on the timeline, our contract amendment for home upgrade was approved. So just so you know, the home upgrade funds were fully reserved, and that program had to go on pause for a little bit. At the last board meeting, there was an amendment approved for home upgrade to continue through the rest of the calendar year. We will start developing a one-stop shop and website and continue to iterate on that. Our RFP process, we're starting to draft that now with a plan to launch later this year, and hopes to launch the turnkey program January 1st next year or early next year. And then other items of building electrification version 2 will be continuing onward. You can see at the bottom there our expectation for when the Inflation Reduction Act and state incentives will be launched. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions from members of the board? Colleen?
Could you tell me whether the bulk procurement is directly to manufacturers or through the retail partners, only in that I see an advantage to going through retail partners, because if they see an incentive to actually inventory more electric HVAC and also heat pump water heaters, that might take up the majority of shelf space, which is now gas appliances?
Yes, a very good question. We're not certain how that will roll out at the moment. We have also been envisioning it through retail partners and local distributors for the same benefit reasons that you've outlined. This could be something that the selected vendor does on their own, much like a contractor who builds thousands of homes negotiates special prices. So that's to be seen, but agree on the retail partner benefits there.
And if I may, one more thing is that I'm seeing, at least in my jurisdiction, a lot of pushback on replacing gas water heaters. There's almost this undercurrent of people mobilizing and saying, we just can't force this on people. So I would strongly suggest that we attack the gas water heater replacement on the forefront, because what seems to happen is there's this inertia that people have about doing something new. And when they hear that their neighbors are all doing it, suddenly they're interested. And then suddenly if you get the retailers involved, then more people are interested because they just get this sense it's coming and they've got to get on board.
No taken. Those are good comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, Donna?
Thanks, Blake. 2 quick questions. So you said there's a potential loaner gas, so if somebody has a heater go out, they can put a loaner gas in until they can get the heat pump water heater. Is that how that works?
Yes, if you could get an electrician out there and a plumber the same day, and the next day after it burns out, that'd be preferable to just electrify same day. But a loaner, there are companies offering a loaner. If you can't get an electrician out, an electrician comes and you replace it with a heat pump in 2 to 6 weeks, something like that.
Okay. I'm going to make sure that all these programs that we are putting in place, Supervisor Mueller, Director Mueller was at the BACMed meeting, are going to coordinate with the new BACMed laws, because if we're not allowed to install a gas water heater, we couldn't do that temporarily at a certain point, correct?
So I don't know a whole lot temporarily, but that you're not allowed to install them. I know that. So that you're not, and actually it's an important point for everyone here to understand. When those rules go into effect, the right now this BACMed will be enforcing the point of sale rule, but the actual installation rule, which would be coming through your permit department, would need to be enforced by the cities. So that'll be a discussion later, but it's something for cities to understand. BACMed won't be enforcing that, but it will be the law. So the expectation is that the different cities will incorporate that into their permitting process.
Could you just say what BACMed is?
The Bay Area Air Quality Management. What year is that supposed to be instituted by? 2027 is for the water heaters, and 2029 is for the furnaces.
For sale, right?
Yeah, for sale or
and installation.
So and it's a burnout. So basically, if you have one of them in your home and it burns out, you will not be able to buy or install. So,
but there's a critical look back at 2025.
There'll be a look back in 2025 at that point of whether or not to go ahead and implement the rule.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
Oh, so I just bring that up so that staff can think about that as we put these programs together and keep an eye on that into the future. And then the second question I had is 31,500 like was for the whole home electrification, and then you're getting it down to maybe 13,000 with incentives. But I don't think there was battery storage resiliency built into that 3150 number. Was there, or was there not?
There was not at the executive committee. That was made as a recommendation, and that is one we're taking on. But in our initial cost, that's not something we included. We think battery storage for customers that might be in PSPS areas might make sense. For every customer, that's probably not affordable. But we will be looking at adding that cost as well.
Well, it's not affordable maybe, but having no electricity for 7, 8 days, like people in my city did, it's not an affordability issue. It's a life and safety issue. So at this point, I do think we need to start thinking more holistically about the overall resiliency. And when we're electrifying homes, making sure that people have an option to put battery storage in there in an affordable, expedient way that, and I know there's car batteries coming up, and there's a lot of changes in the technology, but given how much we've had in terms of the last 3 months of electrical outages, and especially in our DAP communities and the coast side, this is very much on the coast side. I mean, we have to build resiliency options in for people. And if this needs to go on the 10-year financing loan-free thing, we should figure out how to do it. So that's my secondary comment.
Some questions, but trying to avoid comments because I've got public comment. I want to take questions.
You have a question. Thank you. Blake, thank you for the presentation. In the report agenda, the packet that we had, I saw a mention about the upgrading of the turnkey program, including our current, I think, like the policy 10 sustainable workforce policy. And we had a number of public comments at the beginning of the meeting suggesting that there may be changes to that. So I guess my question is, how might that change what we read in the report today?
That's a good question. I don't know if I'm the perfect person to answer that one. Our current home upgrade program originally was union laborers only. We had in the small residential market that can be hard to find to do those installs. So right now we have a mix of union and non-union contractors. We have not made any, it hasn't been a big discussion point yet as of yet as to that particular item for the turnkey program.
Can you repeat the question? Maybe I didn't help respond to that.
Sure. I think I just wanted to see if I could wrap my head around what was discussed about the sustainable workforce policy being a part of the upgrades to the turnkey program in this, I guess, building electrification version 2 that we're talking about. And we had a number of public comments right before the meeting, at the start of the meeting, about I guess proposed changes. And I realize I'm an alternate and I don't have all the context. I suppose I'm getting the sense that this may be something to be discussed in the next meeting. Is that right? Or how might what we're discussing tonight change as a result of upcoming stuff?
A more specific answer would be yes, the turnkey program will comply with the sustainable workforce policy.
But CEO Pepper, is this board deciding on potential changes to the policy in the next meeting? Or chair?
Well, we're not at this
point. So what Blake explained about the current home upgrading program, that program is always set up that it didn't necessarily require, you didn't certainly require people to be paid fair wages and like that. What Blake described tonight is the proposal for how we're going to further expand the building electrification program in concert with what you all heard. Some of you heard, but some of you didn't, as you're new. Back in September on our whole building electrification program to meet our goals for 2035. So it's still in process, and we will be bringing to you, actually to the executive committee in April, the proposed changes to the workforce policy to comply with our DEAI objectives, and that will be how we will implement this program as well. I hope that answers your question. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Jan. Blake, I have two questions. One is your projection on the cost to address the building electrification 2.0 was like $12 to $16 million, and your arrow for the time period goes beyond 2026. So I'm trying to understand, I know this isn't before us as an action item, but I'm just trying to understand what the concept is. Does that go out into 2027? Is it your prediction? Go ahead.
I apologize for that. The expectation is that we would need to continue supporting with turnkey installations after that, but the timeline was only for the 3 years. So that arrow should probably end at the gray box.
Okay, so the timeline for the funds that we'll be looking at the time that this comes to us as an action item will be for 3 years, beginning January 2024.
Correct.
That, I mean, in terms of the actual spend, there'll be some costs before that, I'm sure. Second question, in your presentation, you identified the importance of solar and batteries hookup in some kind of a virtual power plant system or community solar system, which you haven't gotten into in detail, and I'm not asking you to do that, but I'm just asking where that fits, because you didn't really address that. And I think that's undoubtedly a big program for us that everybody's going to be interested in. So can you just give a little bit of color to how that impacts this and when that's going to get developed?
Yes, that is something that we will be developing immediately. Virtual power plant may also include integrated, it may also be integrated with some of the appliances and turn in demand responsiveness of the appliances as well.
Any other questions? Please.
Just a comment.
Oh, well, wait, if it's a comment, let me take the public comment first. I don't see any more questions. Go ahead.
Say that just that last sentence again. I didn't catch it. I didn't understand.
Can you repeat what you just said, Blake?
Yes, as far as battery and solar, that's something that we're actively developing and will be developed within the RFP process and then afterward. And then I also stated that the virtual power plant could possibly also include appliances that are reactive to grid signals. That's common with, it's becoming common with water heaters. We're exploring that with EV managed charging at the moment, though that's not part of this program. So virtual power plant could include more than just battery and solar. It could also include appliances.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. So let me take public comment. Dave Morrill.
Thank you, Chairman DeGolia. Yeah, I have 2 questions and a comment. Blake, do you anticipate any supply chain issues on the equipment going forward?
We do want to make sure to develop the supply chain, and that has been a huge issue, though I haven't seen that be as much of an issue for these appliances lately.
Oh, that's good to hear. And then also, is that PowerPoint available? The PowerPoint that you just produced there?
I believe we post all these online. Am I right about that?
It's on the website right now. It's on there.
Okay, thank you so much. Then a comment. I really agree with Director Colson's idea of the battery storage. It's a big issue because definitely people in Burlingame did go without power for quite some time. But I'm sure some people there are aware of this company out there called Beam Global. And if you're not, I suggest that you look them up on the website called Beam Global. What they have are these portable car chargers, battery backup. It's just worth it to go on the website, look at the video of what these people are coming out with. And it might be something might be somebody you could work with, and it might solve some of your issues. It's something to take a look at. I became aware of it by accident, and it's an amazing thing to see in person. It really is. That's all I have, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dave. What?
Send the name of that firm to the staff.
Yeah, Dave, maybe if you could post the name on the chat, then that'll be easy for the staff to get.
I would love to. I think I know how to do that. I'm not the world's.
Well, if
I will get it to you.
Just send it to us.
I'll do it right now. You got it. Thank you.
Pranita, you wanted to make a comment.
Thank you for your work on this. I just had a comment regarding the low income families. So for a family to sustain 13,000 is a lot. So is there a way to prioritize like water heaters first versus other items in the entire home?
I might have not been clear enough. The low income program will be entirely funded by Peninsula Clean Energy. It would be free.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other comments?
I actually wanted to dovetail off of Donna's comment and emphasize, and I'm sure my friends from Half Moon Bay and Representative Districts 3 for the county can they have even more firsthand experience than I, but I work at that Safeway at the mouth of Devil's Slide, and a lot of my customers come from south of Devil's Slide, and while I can report that in Pacifica, we've actually been very fortunate that it hasn't been a lot worse. I get to talk to all sorts of people daily, and over the last 3 months, a big chunk of the conversation is, oh, you're from Montara. How long has your power been out this week? Oh, you're from, Moss Beach. How long has your power been out this week? So thank you, Donna, for bringing that up. And thank you, Ray. Thank you, Harvey. And I just want to emphasize that visceral response I'm having working with the daily.
Yeah, so if we don't pair battery with solar another $20,000, batteries cost maybe 10 to 12, to $32,000. Right? And if we don't pair the battery, so sure it's going to make a lot of sense. Again, it is going to cost in the short run more to run these electrical appliances if you don't have solar, right, than gas, because the commodity is just cheaper. Someday we'll have a carbon tax. I think that probably in 3 to 4 years, though, because of bi-directional batteries, I mean, we'll have, let's see, a Ford F-150 Lightning goes for $55,000 as 176 kilowatt battery. I believe the Tesla Powerwall, just one, is 10K, 17 times greater. So 4 or 5 years from now, we're going to find a lot of bi-directionality. I mean, it's good. Well, I'm going to get rid of my little teeny truck. I use 2,000 miles a year and get an electric truck, because that's one way that I'm not just saying I'll still be on my bike, which is cheaper. But I do think that this technology is going to change relatively quickly, and as we adopt, the newer models of electric cars, and PCE should figure out how indeed we can help with that.
Yeah, let me make a comment, because I want to dovetail on that. I think that's exactly right. But also we have a strategic priority of building 20 megawatts of power in this county and in Los Banos. And that's something that we've really just put our little finger into. I mean, we've got this one program going with municipalities, we're putting about 2 megawatts of rooftop solar on those, and we're launching the second tranche of that to other municipalities and other public agencies like schools. But we've known we have a strategic goal of building 20 megawatts of local power. This is something that is obviously potentially connected to community power, and we got to figure out how to marry that with this electrification effort, because requiring people to electrify when the electricity rates in our region are so high is just almost incomprehensible. And it's happening from government, and it's a strategic goal to reduce emissions, but we've got to give people the ability to be protected when the power goes out, so that we're not just sticking them into these extremely unsafe situations. And I think we've got some ability to do that. And I agree that bidirectional batteries is one option, but that's kind of, it's a pipe dream option, because it's not in front of us right now. It's in the future. But the ability to build solar resources in our community and manage that power with batteries is in our control. So that's something we've got to prioritize in terms of our strategic goals to make this strategic goal really work.
Just that Christine from Pacifica at the beginning talked about some really innovative stuff that Sacramento is doing. So maybe staff with battery storage communally and car radios or something. I don't know. It sounded very
right.
Ironically, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about wind, because one of the reasons why we've had so much undependability of our of our grid is the wind. So at the time we need it most, it's there. We're just not harnessing it.
True.
So I just want to make a comment, and that's, yes, we're having problems with electricity. And very honestly, Menlo Park, East Palo Alto were hit really, really, really hard. And, you know, we just are going through a third wave of people with 3 and 4 days without power. Having said that, one of the issues is that people don't have heat. Most people have gas heat and it's not working. So I want to make sure that as we're going ahead and looking at this, we're very clear as to where we stand. I think many, many people did have water heaters that were continued to work. And obviously gas cooktops continue to work. But one of the biggest issues that we were dealing with is people who were really cold. And that's because neither electrical heaters nor gas heaters were working. And there were some people who did very well, who did have backup batteries. And they were some of the people who really were able to survive this.
I think the issue is not to make all electric just replace gas. It's to make it better, right? Because there are problems with the gas, and not just health problems in terms of the fumes, but the gas to really work in many households depends on electricity. But if you really, if you have all electricity, it's better, but you have to have all electricity. And if you're dependent on the grid for that, then that's a dependency that if we can avoid, we should avoid.
Absolutely.
And that's where batteries and solar come in. And there's and that's where bidirectional charging, which is really batteries, comes in. But we've got to make that happen programmatically.
Totally agree. Just one of the pieces we were down for, we just got hit with one of the personally, with one of the 3 outages that we were out with for 3 days. One of the best things was I plugged my computers into the car, my EV. I was able to plug my phone in. We were running the EV, we had to keep it on, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't have fumes. And we lost over 3 days. We were charged all of our appliances, all of our electric technology, and lost about 5 miles of range. It was very, very efficient. So if we can get that to power our homes, power our appliances, that's.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And any other comments? I don't see any other comments, so let's move on. The next item on the agenda is board member reports. Does anyone have a report?
So yesterday I attended a very interesting sustainable impact and finance summit at UC Berkeley, where John Podesta spoke, who's the senior advisor to President Biden on clean energy innovation and implementation, along with a whole bunch of other people. So I put a bunch of notes together, and if anybody's kind of interested, you know, I can send out the agenda, and if there's something you're interested in, I'm happy to send it to you. And I know we're going tomorrow, Rick, right, to another conference. Energy conference. Are you going? No, I'm going.
You're going.
I'm again back to Berkeley. So, and I think one of our staff people is going too, right? Three staff people are going too. So I would just encourage you, if you see interesting seminars or anything on electricity and sustainable impact financing, things like that, please go and then share out. It was quite interesting, and the public policies to modernize private capital was fascinating. Just how the government with the IRA, the building bill, and all the bipartisan bills coming through are really trying to think about how to finance all these programs at the federal, state, and local levels. And I'm really pleased our staff's working on this, and the integration between all these three and how well they're going to work, and how that's going to be just really critical to advancing all this modernization. So it gave me hope, actually, I will say.
I did watch a webinar yesterday. You know, being new to council, you get so many, you know, we invited to so many things. So I just have to look at my notes. Who gave that
It was
CPUC webinar, Low Carbon Future. It was a webinar, and they recorded it. I believe it was interesting. I don't think I learned anything that the rest of you probably don't already know, but I found it educational.
Yeah, let's on that too. Any other member reports? Okay, you see none. The next item is a closed session.
And there will not be any report out, so there's no need to come. Well, I guess we still have one member from Los Banos online. Everyone else
and
is
Rod. We have 2 members online.
Okay.
So everyone's going to leave the. Nellie, do you want to announce how it's going to work?
Yes. So we need to take public comment for the closed session items, but as there's not an expected report out, we won't keep the Zoom line open. And so at this point, everybody can leave, and Chair DeGolia, if you will let me know when closed session ends, I will make sure that we notate that in the minutes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I will do that. Either I or Donna will. My phone's almost dead, so it might be Donna. But before we actually go into closed session, let me take any public comment. I don't see any public comment in the room or online, so I will close public comment and we'll go into closed session. So everyone other than board members and council will leave the room and leave the online.
Yes, and I will be putting who remains in the waiting room.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Complaining about their mistakes. You gotta get Wayne back. Wayne will bring a pizza.
Yeah, I can buy it.